The gun does not fire in the first scene. It does not need to. A dying man pulls a wooden case from under a bed, lifts the lid, and every person watching that film feels something shift in their chest before a single round leaves the barrel. That feeling is not an accident. It was engineered, and the weapon sitting in that case, a percussion revolver that should have been a museum piece by 1881, was chosen for reasons so specific and so deliberate that once you understand them, you will never watch Unforgiven the same way again. Hi, my name is Chris, and this is Movie Guns. The wooden case, why the first shot is visual. Nobody announces the star. There is no close-up of a holster, no dramatic draw, no hero music swelling underneath. Eastwood just walks into his bedroom, kneels down, and pulls a plain wooden case from beneath a bed. The kind of case you would use to store something you do not want to look at every day. Not a display case, not a trophy box. A storage container. The kind of thing you put in a drawer or under a floor or behind a wall, because what is inside it belongs to a version of yourself you are trying to forget. Your brain reads that before the dialogue gets anywhere near it. The Starr, 1858, sits in that case already looking wrong. By 1881, the year the film takes place, every working gunfighter on the frontier carried a metallic cartridge revolver. You loaded those guns with self-contained rounds, brass-cased, ready to go. The Colt single-action army, the Smith & Wesson Schofield, even a beat-up old Remington in decent condition. Those guns belonged to the present. The Starr belonged to something older, something that should have stayed buried in whatever decade it came from. A cap-and-ball revolver in 1881 reads the way a rotary telephone would read sitting on a desk in an office full of laptops. You do not need anyone to explain that it is old. Your eyes tell you instantly, and your brain immediately asks the same question. Why does this man still have this? That question is the entire first act of the film compressed into a single image. According to analysis of the film's production choices, the Starr was selected specifically because the creative team wanted a gun that looked like an old trap, something stashed away in a trunk that was probably never meant to be used again. And the reason that choice works so completely is that it does not just tell you the gun is old, it tells you the man is old. Old in a way that has nothing to do with his birth year and everything to do with what he used to be. You are not looking at a firearm, you are looking at evidence. Ebenezer Starr and the gun. Nobody could figure out. Here is where most people assume the Starr is just some random antique the props department dug up, because it looked appropriately decrepit. That assumption is completely wrong, and fixing it changes everything about why the gun works. Ebenezer Starr designed and patented the double-action revolver mechanism in 1856. His family had been building weapons for the American military since the late 1700s. His grandfather Nathan Starr and his father Nathan Starr Jr. were among the most respected sword and rifle makers in Connecticut. Ebenezer established the Starr Arms Company in Yonkers, New York. When the Civil War broke out, the Union Army signed a contract on September 23, 1861, for 12,000 double-action revolvers at $25 each, later revised upward to 20,000 units. For comparison, a Colt Navy cost the government roughly $14.50. The Starr was nearly double the price. And it cost more because it could do something no other American military revolver offered at the time. It fired double action. Now, here is where the design gets strange, because the system Starr built to achieve that was unlike anything else on the market. The Starr 1858 had two triggers, not one. Two completely separate triggers sitting inside the same guard. The large front trigger, which Starr's own manual called the firing lever, rotated the cylinder and cocked the hammer when you pulled it rearward. At the end of its travel, it contacted a smaller second trigger at the rear of the guard, and that second trigger dropped the hammer and fired the round. You could also cock it with the front trigger and shift your finger to the rear sear for a lighter single-action shot, or bypass both and thumb the hammer manually. 3 ways to fire one gun, which sounds brilliant until you put that gun in the hands of a terrified cavalry soldier at the middle of a firefight. The United States Navy tested the Starr by firing 900 consecutive rounds without cleaning and recorded 0 failures. 0. For comparison, Colt revolvers routinely jammed from powder fouling after around 50 shots. On paper, the Starr 1858 was the best performing military sidearm of the entire war. Paper is not a battlefield. When adrenaline flooded in and fine motor control collapsed, Soldiers could not remember which trigger did what. Some tried to thumb the hammer back the way they would, a Colt, and the mechanism jammed. Cavalrymen snapped the double-action triggers under combat stress. The Army pressured Starr to simplify. In 1863, the company stripped out the entire double-action mechanism and released a single-action version for $12, less than half the original price. The most advanced revolver in the war got demoted to a budget option because the men pulling the trigger could not handle what it was asking of them under pressure. Around 47,454 Starr Revolvers were manufactured in total. After the war ended, Starr Arms lost its government contracts and closed permanently in 1867, buried by Colt, Winchester, and Remington. A gun built to be the future of combat became a footnote in a war full of them. And I want you to sit with that for a second, because that is exactly what William Munny is. The Missouri Connection. Why this gun belongs to this man. David Webb. Peoples wrote the screenplay in the mid-1970s under the title The Cut Horror Killings. Eastwood acquired it around 1985, read it, loved it, and put it in a drawer for almost a decade. He told people at the AFI's 40th anniversary event that he wanted to wait until he was old enough to do the character justice. He was 62 when they finally filmed it. His face carried every one of those years, and then some. The film's opening text tells you that William Munny was a known thief and murderer, a man of notoriously vicious and intemperate disposition. He killed women. He killed children. He told the Schofield kid he was just lucky, meaning he survived because he was too drunk and too mean to die. Then a woman named Claudia cured him of whiskey and wickedness. She died of smallpox in 1878. The sober farmer she left behind is failing. His hogs are sick. His children are thin. And when a bounty offer arrives, he walks inside and pulls out a gun that belongs to who he was before Claudia made him someone else. Now, think about the timeline that gun implies. Missouri during the Civil War era was a contested border state torn apart by irregular guerrilla warfare between pro-Union and pro-Confederacy factions. Jesse James rode out of Missouri. So did the younger brothers. Both came from the same post-war bandit culture the film implies for Munny. The Starr 1858 saw most of its service in the Western theater of the Civil War, exactly the contested ground where a young Missouri raider could have acquired a military-issue revolver through scavenging, theft, or service with an irregular unit. Munny carrying a Starr is not a costume decision. It is period-accurate biography written in steel and wood. The gun tells you where he came from before a single line of dialogue confirms it. He was young and dangerous and violent in exactly the years and exactly the places where a Starr would have been available. And he kept it through Claudia, through the farm, through the failed hogs and the lean years. He kept it under his bed in a wooden case. That is not sentimentality. That is a man who never fully believed he was done with what that gun represents. The fence post scene. The gap between the gun and the man. Munny sets a tin can on a fence post, pulls the trigger, misses, fires again, misses again. Every shot goes wide. The Starr's heavy double-action pull drags his aim sideways. And the man who once killed without thinking cannot hit a still target at short range. I have watched that scene probably 30 times preparing for this video, and it still makes me uncomfortable in a way I cannot fully explain, which I think is the point. Think about any moment in your own life when you tried to do something your body used to do automatically, years after you stopped practicing. Playing an instrument, a sport, even something as simple as a skill from an old job. Your hands remember the shape of the motion. The muscle memory is still somewhere in there, but the precision is gone. The automatic certainty is gone. That is what you were watching in that scene. Except, the thing Munny's hands used to do automatically was end human lives. Here is the part that should make your skin crawl. The gun fires perfectly every single time. Clean ignition, clean report. Every chamber cycling exactly the way Ebenezer Starr designed it 130 years before that film was made. The mechanism is flawless. The failure is entirely human. The weapon is ready. The man is the weak link. And that gap between a machine that works and a man who does not yet have the will to match it becomes the central tension of the entire film. You never stop tracking it. Even when the Starr disappears from frame for long stretches, your brain keeps running the same quiet calculation in the background. Is he going to catch up to that gun? Or is the gun going to stay ahead of him and the film refuses to answer until it is far too late for anyone to look away comfortably. The Starr 1858 held 33 grains of black powder behind a 138-grain lead ball in each chamber, 6-inch tapered barrel, nearly 12 inches overall, about 2 pounds and 12 ounces, heavy for its era. You feel that weight when Eastwood lifts it on screen. You feel it when his arms absorb the trigger pull. In a film where every other character carries a modern metallic cartridge revolver, Munny shows up with technology that predates the concept of a self-contained round. A Colt single-action army says the man carrying it lives in the present. A cap and ball revolver from 1858 says the man carrying it belongs to something that should have ended a long time ago. What Hollywood got right? What? To span up it quietly bent. The production team on Unforgiven did their homework. And that matters because you can feel the difference between a film that researched its weapons and a film that just grabbed whatever looked good in the prop room. Eastwood was precise about period accuracy across the board, from the guns down to the belt buckles, and it shows. The Starr 1858 Army revolver used in the film is the correct model for the era. The percussion cap ignition system is accurate. The weight and handling are accurate. The difficulty Munny experiences with the heavy trigger pull is accurate and deliberately chosen. Gunsmiths who have handled original Starr revolvers consistently note that the double-action trigger is among the heaviest and most mechanically complex pulls of any revolver from the period. What looks like an aging man struggling with a simple firearm is actually a technically honest portrait of what that gun demanded from the person shooting it. Now here is where they made a quiet adjustment, and honestly I respect the decision. The fence post scene shows Munny loading the Starr the way you would expect. Powder, ball, percussion caps on the nipples. But the scene is compressed. Loading a cap and ball revolver properly is a slow, deliberate, multi-step process for each of the 6 chambers. In a film that wants you to feel Munny's rustiness and hesitation, showing every single step of a full reload would have killed the pacing. So they compressed it. They kept enough to read as authentic and trimmed what would have become a 5-minute loading tutorial. That is the difference between historical accuracy and dramatic accuracy. The best filmmakers know they are not making a documentary. They are making a story that feels true. And Unforgiven feels true in a way that very few Westerns ever have, because the compromises they made were in service of the emotion, not in service of looking impressive. Little Bill's hands, the trespassee scene. Little Bill Daggett confiscates the Starr after beating Munny half to death in the rain outside Greeley's saloon. He picks it up, turns it over in his hands, examines it. The scene lasts maybe 15 seconds. Gene Hackman plays it completely straight. No sneering, no commentary. Just a man looking at a gun he just took off someone he put in the mud. And something about that image registers as deeply wrong. Not because of the Starr's condition, not because of anything Daggett says, because by that point in the film, your brain has already wired that revolver to Munny specifically, the way you wire a person's voice to their face. You cannot separate them. You have watched him open the case. You have watched him miss the tin can. You have watched him load it with hands that remembered the motion, even when the precision was gone. That gun has become an extension of who he is in this story, and seeing another man's hands on it registers as trespass. The film built that bond in the first act and never released it. And it did it without a single line of dialogue explaining the connection. It just showed you the man and the gun together, repeatedly in moments of private struggle and hesitation, until your nervous system filed them together under the same instinctive category. Remove the Starr from those early scenes, and Munny reads as a tired farmer making a desperate financial decision. Keep the Starr, and he reads as something dangerous pretending to sleep. Daggett holding that revolver does not just tell you he has taken Munny's property. It tells you, in the language of pure visual instinct, that something has been disturbed that should not have been disturbed. The line that lives in the same register as the gun. After the Schofield kid kills Quick Mike and realizes what he has actually done, he sits shaking in the trees, crying, falling apart. Munny sits beside him, and he says it quietly, almost to himself. It is a hell of a thing killing a man. You take away all he has got and all he is ever going to have. That line lives in the same register as the Starr itself. Cold and old and carrying weight you feel in your chest instead of your ears. It does not perform emotion. It does not explain itself. It just sits there, the way that revolver sits in its case, carrying decades of meaning that the speaker never fully unpacks out loud. Most action films give their heroes clean relationships with violence. The killing is justified. The killer walks away looking capable and certain. Unforgiven refuses that completely. Every act of violence in this film costs something. And Munny's line to the kid is the filmmaking that cost audible for the first time, after spending 90 minutes making it visible through that revolver. The gun and the line are saying the same thing. Violence is not power. It is subtraction. It takes away all someone has got and all they are ever going to have. And the man who knows that better than anyone in the story is the man who made his living doing it and has spent years trying to pretend he never did. What the Starr was really saying. All along here is the contrast the film is built on, and it is hiding in plain sight the entire time. Every villain and working gunfighter in Unforgiven carries a cult single-action army. The Peacemaker, the most iconic, most celebrated, most copied handgun in American frontier history. That gun says its owner lives in the present. It says they are a professional. It says they are competent and current and operating within the normal grammar of frontier violence. Munny carries a revolver that was already obsolete when the Civil War ended. A gun that the military demoted because soldiers could not figure out how to fire it under pressure. A gun from a company that went bankrupt in 1867 and was forgotten by nearly everyone who survived the war it was built for. That contrast is Eastwood's entire thesis for the film, translated into hardware. The men who look like gunfighters are carrying the gunfighter's gun. The most dangerous man in the movie is carrying something that looks like it belongs in a case at a history museum. Because real violence, the kind that does not perform and does not announce itself, does not need to look current, it just needs to be willing. And that is the most frightening thing the Starr communicates. Not that Munny is fast, not that he is skilled, but that he is willing in a way that goes all the way down, underneath the farm and the dead wife and the sick hogs, and the years of trying to be someone else. The willingness was always there. It was just waiting in a wooden case under a bed. The Starr 1858 did not make William Munny terrifying. William Munny made the Starr terrifying. And that combination, a flawed weapon in the hands of a flawed man, produced something that neither one could have achieved alone. Eastwood dedicated Unforgiven to Sergio Leone and Don Siegel, the directors who spent decades building his career on mythic gunslingers with fast hands and clean kills. Unforgiven exists to set that myth on fire, and the Starr 1858 is what lights the match. If this breakdown changed the way you see that film, hit subscribe so you do not miss the next one, because next time we're talking about the second weapon Munny picks up. And if the Starr is a monster waking up, what he carries into that saloon at the end is something else entirely, something that does not ask permission and does not leave room for the kind of speech he gave the Schofield kid in the trees. That video is on screen right now.